Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time to talk about Tyler, the Creator, talking. Because recently some clips of him from an old DJ Drama interview have been making the rounds. Now, I guess the interview has been re-uploaded, which for sure has led to this recycling of clips from this discussion. But more importantly, in light of all of this, all these various Clipper pages on Twitter have seen fit to basically take the most salacious or controversial bits of the interview, which for sure has led to some weird reactions, like people kind of like, pushing forward the perception that Tyler is always whining and complaining and talking about stuff he doesn't like. But also I thought it would be interesting for me to approach some of these clips, given that I think Tyler does make some prescient points during this conversation that are still relevant in 2026.
I'm not big on announcing or telling people things before it's done. Mm-hmm. Like, I fucking hate snippet culture. I really hate snippet culture. And I hate that it's okay and people are so, that's why I hate leaks. I don't like none of it. And when I'm done and ready to roll out or let y'all know about my next thing, like, that's when it's ready, because we as humans, we could change our mind. And then we as humans also get excited. And then we as humans dive deep into wormholes and then set expectations. Mm-hmm. And then is that when people get disappointed or something, they're blinding themselves to receive or enjoy something that's right there that they might love because they're so stuck on a previous thought or idea of what something should be.
Personally, I completely sympathize with this clip and think Tyler is making some valid points here, even if a lot of his concerns, I think, mostly align with how he personally functions as an artist. What I mean by that is Tyler is very different than the average rap or pop artist out there right now, in that he tends to approach every single project that he does from a high concept position, be it either in the themes that are going into the lyrics on the record, or even just the musical direction that he's taking things in. And sometimes giving people too many tastes of what is to come, or too many small bite-sized pieces of what you might be working on at some point in the future could most definitely poison the well and set expectations in a weird way. And given that when it comes to projects like Chromacopia or even the much lighter and dancier Don't Tap the Glass, Tyler is going to want listeners to look at these records in a super holistic fashion, from what the lyrics are about, from the start of the record to the end of the record, from the way all of the production and instrumentals might reinforce a particular vibe or focus. It's going to be a bit more difficult to do that if you have teased fans into oblivion with a scattered array of pieces and sounds that could be read into in a multitude of different ways. To a degree, I would actually argue Drake kind of did that with Iceman. Now, ultimately, I don't think it matters too much in the case of Drake in the long run. In the wake of what Tyler is saying here, I also think of artists whose fan base skews maybe a bit younger, like a Playboi Carti or something like that. Someone who famously, in the lead up to music, teased that record to death. We got snippet after snippet after snippet, only to be left with this completely bloated, inconsistent, boring album that is completely unenjoyable from a holistic standpoint. Like, the only thing you're really left doing is picking out your favorites from the bunch and then just leaving it from there. And Tyler is clearly the sort of artist who does not want his audience to have that kind of experience with his records. He wants the songs to empower each other, to intertwine and display to the listener some kind of overall vision, and snippet culture works in the complete opposite direction of that. Another issue Tyler brought up in the midst of this conversation is him disliking the way that a lot of rap discourse is going right now in regards to numbers and top 5 lists.
I think people who fixate on objective top 5s are fucking lame. Like, I'd rather hear people talk about the shit they like and love and their favorites instead of who's the best based on numbers or hit. Like, how dare you not put Pony Tony on top 5? He killing niggas. You heard his verse on so-and-so. He rapped from the perspective of a hot dog. Like, oh, but what's your favorite song on that album? I don't really listen to that album. So what albums do you listen to?
What's that?
And I do not give a fuck about an objective top Rushmore, because I'm doing my own thing, like, whatever. Like, but I think everyone should have their own personal Rushmore of things that they heard when they were 7, 14, 28, 40 that changed their life, that makes them feel a certain way, that's their personal favorite shit. But when it comes to an overall top 5 list or Mount Rushmore, it's like, cool, hip hop Twitter ran by 16-year-old white kid who didn't even grow up on rap. Like, do your thing. It's cool. Like,
now, I know he didn't 100% mean it in this way, but personally, I wouldn't necessarily discourage someone to get, less enthusiastic about music or an element of culture that they didn't necessarily like grow up with. Can experience like that inform your taste and understanding of a certain style of music in a deeper and more profound way? Sure. But by that same token, there are genres of music that I grew up with more than hip hop, that I enjoy rap music generally more than now. And there are genres of music that I didn't listen to as much in my teen years, where I was listening to much more hip hop, that I consume much more today. Like when I was 14, you think I was listening to post-punk and disco and baroque pop? No, I was listening to rap and metal. So whatever style of music you find yourself really getting passionate about and getting into it, whatever age that you do it, just do it. Just get into it. Just be chill, be respectful, and be open to learn. With that being said, though, I think Tyler is addressing here a sort of type of rap discourse that as it continues, personally, I feel like it kind of gets more and more dated every year. One, the number side of things, which sort of seems to dominate most conversations these days on social media. Oh, this rapper's better than this rapper's better than this rapper. We have to consider this rapper because they sold the most copies. They had the most numbers, which I feel like was maybe sort of a valid talking point at one point when hip hop as a culture and as a music style was just a bit more insular. But in 2026, and really for the past 10 years, rap music has been more of a commercial music commodity than it's ever been. And its biggest and most widely streamed artist currently, Drake, is like the personification of that. So now today, not only are those sales and those numbers being dictated by metrics that have nothing to do with rap music at its roots in terms of style or ethos, but increasingly every year we see more information about bots and all the various ways in which these numbers are repeatedly skewed. It's to the point where there is really no reason as of right now to trust them as a barometer of what's legitimate and what's not in the mainstream. Secondarily here, we also have Tyler talking about top fives and Mount Rushmores in terms of like artistry and quality. The kinds of conversations that increasingly we actually see Tyler, the creator, getting included in. He's not really all that enthused by these ratings and comparisons, and I think I can kind of understand why. And it boils down to him sort of saying he's doing his own thing. And not only is that true of him, but I think that's also true for a lot of artists of his generation and younger as well. While personally, I grew up during an era of hip hop music where like lyrics and verses and pen game like really deeply mattered, to the point where even if you did somehow nail down a certain level of really impressive commercial success, be it either a Vanilla Ice or an MC Hammer, there was only going to be a certain amount of credibility you were going to receive as a result of those commercial accolades. Because if you weren't writing verses that were as good as your average rap fan's top 5 artists, then you just weren't that guy. However, in 2026, the way things have shifted in so many different directions in terms of like what floats and what doesn't in the mainstream and the underground in hip hop, it just feels like to develop a top 5 or a Mount Rushmore of artists who are operating today, we would have to base that upon metrics and quality standards that a lot of young artists aren't even interested in trying to hold themselves to. When it comes to rap artists who have made a pretty big cultural splash over the last 10 to 15 years, another name that comes to mind is Travis Scott. I think Rodeo is an incredible game-changing album, but not for its lyrics. I mean, Travis does have some cool and personal bars on that record that I like for sure, but for the most part, he's just not really that kind of artist. A$AP Rocky too, I would say to an extent. Like these guys have written super catchy, sharp bars here and there, but for the most part, I see them sort of as songwriters and curators of vibes and guys who make really interesting choices in terms of like production and features and can conjure these really interesting focused aesthetic experiences over the course of an entire record. So again, from Tyler's perspective, I could kind of see how a lot of these ways of rating and sort of like gauging certain artists, listing certain artists just doesn't really make all that much sense anymore. The limitations of do's and don'ts as far as hip hop music go currently, they've all been blurred and obliterated. As important as lyricism and pen game are, I'm sure to somebody like Tyler, who actually cares about the history of hip hop music and the artists who influence him most, simultaneously, I'm sure he doesn't want to be limited by any of those expectations and would rather be creatively free to do whatever he wants to do without having to worry about whether or not he measures up to some of the greats from the 90s or 2000s who were working by artistic and lyrical standards that he has no interest in conforming to. Even in this same interview, he talks about not necessarily signing along with Odd Future to Jay-Z, who was very much interested in working with the group at the time, because I guess around that era, they much preferred their own personal creative freedom and ability to do whatever the hell they wanted.
What was the first conversation with Hov?
That nigga invited us to one of his LA homes and we just ate tacos. Honestly, don't remember much, but the house had a little bridge. We walk over some water and we ate some tacos and he wanted to sign us. I was like, man, you're cool. I was like, no.
Oh, he wanted to sign y'all.
It was crazy. A lot of people were just interested and was like, yo, let's try to do something, da-da-da. But like, I'm like, I don't know. Nah. And I had like Kelly and Clancy who was like, they need to, I was like, nah. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I just want creative control and then do everything.
A lot of people in those positions would have taken that, especially with guys of that stature.
Oh, easy. But it's like, nah, I love your work. I love everyone. Y'all, everyone's cool, but y'all, I don't think you guys have what I have and could help me get to what I truly want, not what we think we're supposed to have as musicians or artists or the shiny plane. Like, I don't want that. Like, right now, I just want to sit on Photoshop and make this stuff and make these weird beats, and then I'll get there.
Which, again, I think says a lot about where Tyler is at mentally, or has been at for a long time. Even if in his music and on social media, he hasn't always come off as mature as he does today. But yeah, those are my thoughts on these clips. Would love to know yours in the comments. You guys are the best. Over here next to my head is another video you can check out. Hit that up or a link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Tyler, forever.